The evening had been perfectly orchestrated. My wife, Alina, had spent hours preparing her signature lasagna, the one that made our friends joke they only stayed married because of her dinner parties. The table was set with the good china, candles flickered, and a bottle of expensive Cabernet breathed on the counter. It was supposed to be a celebration. A quiet, sophisticated night with our oldest friends, Maya and David and Priya and Vikram. We'd all been through everything together. College, first jobs, buying homes, and the messy, beautiful arrival of our kids. We were a unit, a chosen family. And lately, that family had felt a little strained. Tensions, silent treatments, inside jokes that now landed with a thud. Alina, ever the peacemaker, decided this dinner was the cure. "We just need to reconnect," she'd said, smoothing my collar before the doorbell rang. "And I need you to be nice. Especially to Vikram. You two have been bristling for months. Just apologize for whatever it is. Clear the air." I didn't even know what I was supposed to apologize for. A disagreement about a business idea? A poorly timed joke 6 months ago? But Alina was insistent. Her eyes had that determined sparkle. "Promise me. One sentence. Just smooth things over. For the sake of our trio." So I promised. The first hour was pleasant, if a little forced. We laughed about old times, the wine flowed, and the lasagna was, as always, a triumph. But as the plates were cleared and the conversation mellowed, I felt Alina's foot nudge mine under the table. Her gaze flickered towards Vikram. It was time. I cleared my throat. Vikram looked up. Everyone did. The candlelight danced in their expectant eyes. "Vikram," I began, raising my glass slightly. "Alina's right. We've been off. And she told me to apologize tonight, to clear the air. So, I'm sorry." Vikram's face softened into a gracious smile. He opened his mouth to accept, to return the pleasantry. But something in me, maybe the wine, maybe the years of unspoken tension, maybe just the sheer performative nature of the moment, made me keep going. Alina had said one sentence. But one sentence felt like a lie. "I'm sorry," I repeated, my voice dropping, "that I never told you I knew." The smile froze on Vikram's face. The clink of a fork against a plate echoed in the sudden, profound silence. "Knew what?" Priya asked, her voice a fragile thread. She looked from Vikram's ashen face to mine. I looked at Vikram. I looked at Priya. I looked at Alina, whose eyes were wide with a sudden, terrifying understanding. She knew in that instant that her perfect evening was about to implode. But the words were already out. They hung in the air between us, sharp and glittering like shards of glass. "Knew about the conference in Chicago," I said, my voice quieter now, almost a whisper. 6 months ago. The Hyatt Regency." Vikram's fork clattered onto his plate. The sound was deafening in the silent room. David, across the table, went pale. He reached for his water glass, but his hand was shaking so badly he knocked it over, sending a cascade of water across the white tablecloth. No one moved to clean it up. Priya was staring at Vikram with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. It was as if she was looking at a stranger. "Chicago," she breathed. "You said that was a last-minute thing. A client emergency. You said you slept on a conference room couch." Vikram opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked like a fish gasping for air on dry land. Across the table, Maya was watching David. Her eyes were narrow, calculating. "The Hyatt Regency," she repeated slowly. "David, your company's conference was at the Hilton. But you came back with a key card from the Hyatt in your suit pocket. You said you'd picked it up by mistake at the bar. The pieces were falling into place now for all of us. The late nights. The sudden business trips that coincided. The way Vikram and David always seemed to have each other's backs, no questions asked." David finally found his voice, but it was cracked, desperate. "It's not what you think. We were just having drinks. A few drinks. It was nothing. Nothing." Priya's voice rose, sharp and brittle. "You're both turning white as ghosts over nothing? You're shaking over nothing." Then Maya dropped the bomb. Her voice was calm, terrifyingly calm, the kind of calm that comes before a storm. "I called the Hyatt that weekend, David. At 2 a.m. You didn't answer your phone. I was worried. They connected me to your room. A woman answered. She said you were in the shower. The room tilted. I felt the world shift on its axis. I hadn't known about that. I only knew about Vikram. But David? David was there too? Vikram and David exchanged a look. It lasted only a second, but in that second, everything was laid bare. They had been together. Not just cheating on their wives, but cheating together, covering for each other, using each other as alibis. The conferences, the late nights, the sudden trips, it was all a carefully constructed lie, and they had both been each other's co-conspirators. Alina made a small sound, a wounded animal noise. She had planned this dinner. She had begged me to apologize. She had wanted to heal our little family, and instead, she had handed me the shovel to dig all our graves. Priya stood up so fast her chair scraped backwards and fell over. She didn't pick it up. She just stood there, trembling, tears streaming down her face. How long, she whispered. How long have you been lying to me? Vikram reached for her. Priya, please, let me explain. Don't touch me, she screamed, jerking away. Don't you ever touch me again. Maya hadn't moved. She was still sitting perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap, staring at David with those terrifyingly calm eyes. The children, she said quietly. Our children. Were you thinking about them when you were in that hotel room? When you had your little arrangement? David started crying. Ugly, desperate sobs. I love you, Maya. I love you so much. It was a mistake. A terrible mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk, Maya said, her voice still eerily calm. A mistake is burning the toast. What you did, that's not a mistake. That's a choice. 1,000 choices, every single day, to lie to my face. Alina finally found her voice. She stood up, her hands shaking, her face pale as death. Everyone, please. Let's just calm down. We can talk about this. We can. Calm down. Priya whirled on her, eyes blazing through her tears. Calm down? Your husband just destroyed my marriage. Your husband just told me that my entire life is a lie. And you want me to calm down? Alina flinched as if she'd been slapped. She turned to me, and the look in her eyes was worse than anger. It was devastation. Pure, utter devastation. Why? She whispered. Why did you do this? I told you to apologize. I told you one sentence. Just one sentence. Why couldn't you just leave it alone? I didn't have an answer. I didn't know why I'd said it. Maybe because the secret had been burning inside me for 6 months. Maybe because I was tired of the lies, tired of pretending everything was perfect when it wasn't. Maybe because some small, petty part of me wanted Vikram to hurt the way I'd hurt when I saw him that night, wanted someone else to feel the weight of the truth. But watching Priya crumble, watching Maya's terrifying calm, watching David sob like a child, there was no satisfaction in it. Only horror. Only regret. Vikram finally stood up. He looked broken, defeated. I'll go, he said quietly. I'll pack my things. I'll stay somewhere else tonight. Don't bother coming back, Priya said, her voice flat. Dead. I'll have your things on the porch by morning. Vikram looked at David, but David wouldn't meet his eyes. David was still crying, still reaching for Maya's hand, still begging. Vikram walked out without another word. The front door clicked shut behind him, and the sound was like a gunshot. Priya followed a moment later, not looking at any of us. She just walked out into the night, leaving her jacket, her purse, everything behind. Maya finally stood up. She looked at David, then at me, then at Alina. Thank you for dinner, she said, her voice dripping with icy sarcasm. It was unforgettable. And then she, too, walked out, leaving David slumped in his chair, his face buried in his hands. Alina stood in the middle of the ruined dinner party, the spilled wine, the overturned chair, the half-eaten lasagna, the shattered lives, and she looked at me. Really looked at me. Like she was seeing me for the first time. I asked you for one thing, she said quietly. One thing. And you couldn't even give me that. Alina, don't. She held up a hand. Just, don't. I need to think. I need to figure out if I even know who you are. She walked out of the dining room. I heard our bedroom door close. Not slam. Just close. Softly. Finally. and the silence that followed was louder than any scream. I sat there alone, surrounded by the wreckage. The candles had burned down to nothing. The wine was flat in the glasses. And I realized with a cold, sinking dread that Alina had told me to apologize. And I had. But my apology hadn't fixed anything. It had destroyed everything. 3 marriages. 15 years of friendship. Countless memories. All gone. Because of one sentence. Because I couldn't just say I was sorry and leave it at that. Because the truth, I learned that night, doesn't always set you free. Sometimes, it just burns your whole world to the ground.